Computer Programming 1 Summary Report by Jamaica Madayag. Introduction to Programming. Concept of Algorithm. Algorithm is a set of instructions. This is comparable to a recipe that provides you steps on how to use the materials and put together the ingredients to get a product, such as a cake for instance. In the computer world, there are voluminous data which computers have to deal with. Hence, there must be instructions that will tell them on what to do to produce results. And these instructions are called algorithm. The algorithm must first be designed before it is expressed into a computer program format to be executed by the computers. In computer programming, algorithms are expressed in the form of statements. These statements must be clear to produce correct results. Here's how to write an algorithm. First, define the inputs. Inputs are data to be processed. Second, define the variables. Variables are used to store information to be referenced and manipulated. Third, outline the operations. Operations are actions or processes to be carried out to accomplish a task. And finally, output the results. Output is the data generated after the series of operations. Now let's talk about the concept of flowchart. Flowchart is a diagram that uses special symbols representing an algorithm or process. Flowchart is specifically helpful in figuring out bugs in a program before carrying it out. Table 1 shows the basic flowchart symbols used and their corresponding functions. Terminal. It indicates the start or end of a flowchart. Preparation or initialization. It is used to prepare or initialize variables. Input or output. It is used to take input from or display output on. Process. It represents arithmetic instructions or any data manipulation. Decision. It represents a decision point such as yes or no or true or false. On-page connector. It is used to connect a remote flowchart portion on the same page. Off-page connector. It is used to connect a remote flowchart portion on another page. Flow lines. It indicates the flow of control. Programming concept. Wikipedia defines programming as the implementation of logic to facilitate specified computing operations and functionality. In doing so, the algorithms or flowcharts created as part of your planning are actually expressed into computer programs. To construct these, programming language, semantics, and syntax are used. Programming language is a formal language comprising of set of grammatical rules to instruct a computer in performing a task. There are different types of programming languages as follows. First is the low-level programming languages. They are the languages that have little or no abstraction of programming concepts and are very close to machine instructions. Examples of these are machine codes and assembly languages. Second is the high-level programming languages. They are the languages that have very high abstraction of programming concepts and are written in a form that is close to human language. Examples of these are Java, Visual Basic, Python, and others. Origins of C++ programming language. C++ programming language is said to be a combination of high-level and low-level languages. Hence, considered a middle-level language, it was created by Bjarne Stroustrup, a Danish computer scientist at Bell Telephone Laboratories, now known as Nokia Bell Labs, in Murray Hill, New Jersey. Originally, C++ was known as C with classes, which meant to superset the C programming language. Stroustrup's goal was to add object-oriented programming in C language. It was in 1983 where C with classes was changed to C++, where plus plus roughly means one higher than C. To date, C++ is still one of the most popular programming languages according to the TIOBE Index latest study of 2019. Uses of C++. C++ is one of the primary choices in developing several applications. C++ is used for developing the following. First, the operating systems. Operating systems such as Microsoft and few parts of the Apple operating system are developed using C++. Second, browsers. Browsers such as Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox, particularly their rendering engines, are developed using C++, simply because of the speed it offers. Third, libraries. High-level libraries are also developed using C++. For machine learning libraries such as TensorFlow, C++ is particularly used in the back end because of its speed. Fourth, graphics. In graphics applications, fast rendering is a requirement which makes C++ the best choice. Specifically, C++ is used in the back end of software that utilizes computer vision, digital image processing, and high-end graphical processing. Fifth, databases. Database software of open source database software such as MySQL and Postgres are written in C++. These two popular databases are used in YouTube, Quora, and etc. Sixth, embedded systems. Different embedded systems, such as smartwatches, are written in C++. The fact that C++ is close to machine codes compared to high-level languages. 7. Compilers. Most of the compilers, such as the compilers of C, Hash, and Java, are also written in C++. 8. Media access. C++ is also used for creating a media player, managing video files and audio files, such as Winamp Media Player. 9. Cloud or distributed systems. Cloud storage systems and other distributed systems are also use C++ because it is compatible with several machines. And lastly, telephone switches. C++ is also widely used in programming telephone switches and routers. Integrated Development Environment for C++. An integrated development environment, or IDE, is a software application that provides comprehensive facilities to programmers for software development. IDEs normally consist of source code editor, build automation tool or compiler, and debugger. Some IDEs support a single language, while others support various languages. There are several IDEs used for C++ programming. For PCs, you can use Dev C++, Code Blocks, Visual Studio Code, Xcode, Eclipse, Sublime Text, or CodeLite. For mobile phones, you can use CPP Droid or CXX Droid for Android, while Mobile C or Textastic Code Editor for iOS. For purposes of demonstration, this module will be using Visual Studio Code for Mac OS. However, installation and configuration for Dev C++ is also presented below for those who are using Windows as operating system. Using Dev C for Windows. Dev C++ installation. Just download the Dev C++ in the link shown the presentation and click the appropriate download button. Wait until downloading of files is successful. After downloading the files, double-click the downloaded file and then follow the instructions. For setting up the Dev C++, open the Dev C++ and this directs you to the home page of Dev C++ as shown below. Using Dev C++ for Windows. By default, the most recent version of C++ is not enabled, hence it must be explicitly enabled. Do the following. First, click the Tools and then Compiler option. And then click the Settings and Code Generation. Under the language standard, select ISO C++11. Coding in Dev C++. You are now ready to program in Dev C++. Do the following. Click the file and then New and then the source file. Source code editor appears as shown below. After that, type the sample C++ program below. Coding in Dev C++. Save the sample C++ program by clicking File, Save As, and then use Welcome as file name. Make sure that the file is C++ source files, then click Save. To view the output, you must compile and run the sample program. To compile and run the program, do any of the following. Click Execute or compile and run, or just press F11. Close the output window or simply press any key to go back to the source code editor. Try deleting the semicolon located at the end of line 6. Press F11 to compile and run the program. Note that the compiler catches errors. This generates warnings or error messages so you can easily recognize and correct the problem. Warnings or error messages are displayed in the compiler window as shown. When the compilation is unsuccessful, check the error message as this will give you a hint on what is wrong in your program. Bring back the semicolon and then compile and run the program again. This will give you 0 errors and warnings. Using Visual Studio Code for Mac OS. For installing the Visual Studio Code, just download the Visual Studio Code in the link shown in the presentation. And just like what we did on the last time, just click the button, the download button, appropriate for Mac OS. Wait until downloading of files is successful. Double-click the downloaded file and then follow the instructions. For setting up Visual Studio Code, open the Visual Studio Code and then the Visual Studio Code must show like this in your Mac OS. And install the Microsoft C or C++ extension which is used for debugging and IntelliSense. Do the following. Click the extensions view icon on the sidebar, then search for C++. Click Install. After installing, install the code runner extension which will be used for running programs. Click the extension view icon on the sidebar again, and then search for code runner, and then click install. The C or C++ extensions does not include the C++ compiler or debugger. For Mac OS, the compiler is Clang. To verify that Clang is installed, go to the terminal window and enter the command below. If Clang is not installed, you may have to download Xcode in your App Store, after which enter the following command to install the command line developer tools, after which restart your computer. In the line 2, the line using namespace std tells the compiler to use the std namespace. The count is part of the standard library, and all the elements in the standard C++ library are declared within what is called a namespace. The namespace std, when this line is used, you don't need to use std anymore every time you use count, just like the statement. In line 3, white space is the term used to describe blanks, tabs, new line characters, and comments. White spaces in C++ is totally ignored by the compiler. For this reason, it does not matter where you put a statement in a line. Hence, the given program is the same as what is shown here below. In line 4, the line int main is the special function in all C++ programs where execution begins. In line 5 and line 8, the curly brackets and determine the start and back of a block. A block in C++ is a set of logically connected statements. Line 6. This line is a single line comment available in C++, which is ignored by the compiler. Single line comments begin with dot and stop at the end of the line. You can use them and to include short explanations or observations concerning your program. For multiple line comments are used such as that one. In line 7, this line is a C++ statement. A statement consists of expressions, functions, operators, or symbols that produce effect. In the given statement, count means character output. A function in C++ that displays the message within the double quotation marks on the screen. The greater than symbol in C++ is called the insertion operator to indicate what to output. All statements in C++ must be terminated with a semicolon. Variables, constants, and literals. Variables are reserved memory locations for storing values. Each variable needs a name that identifies it and distinguishes it from the others. This is termed as identifier. A C++ identifier is a name used to identify not only variables but also functions, classes, modules, or any other user-defined items. The C++ program does not need to know the exact location where a variable is stored. It can simply refer to it by its name. Constants and literals. Constants are fixed values that the program may not alter. These fixed values are called literals. Constants are just like regular variables except that their values cannot be modified after their definition. Here's a list of different literals in C++ programming. Integer. An integer is a numeric literal which can be decimal, octal, or hexadecimal constant. In C++ programming, octal starts with a 0 and hexadecimal starts with a OX 0x. You can see the example below. Letter B. Floating point literals. A floating point is a numeric literal that has either a fractional form or an exponent form. Here is the example below. For the characters, a character literal is created by enclosing a single character inside single quotation marks. Example are the VT3 that is shown below. Escape sequences. Escape sequences are characters that cannot be typed or has special meaning in C++ programming. For example, escape code N or new line, escape code R is the carriage return, escape code T is the tab, escape code V vertical tab, escape code B backspace, escape code F form feed or page feed, escape code A alert or beep, escape code single quote and double quote question mark and then backslash. String literals. String literals are sequence of characters enclosed in double quote marks. For example, double quote marks C++ and then close it with another double quote marks. And then etc. Data types. The C++ program needs to be aware of the kind of data stored in the variable. C++ offers various built-in as well as user-defined data types. Here's the list of fundamental data types. First type is the Boolean keyword bool. It is used to indicate a value of either true or false. Character keyword char. It is used to indicate a character value. Integer keyword is int. It is used to indicate an integer value. Floating point keyword is float. It is used to indicate decimal or exponentials with a size of 4 bytes. Double floating point keyword is double. It is used to indicate decimal or exponentials with a size of 8 bytes. Valueless keyword is void. It indicates no value. Wide character keyword is wchar underscore t. It indicates a character value with the size of 2 bytes. Basic input or output statements in C++. In C++, input and output are performed in streams or what we call sequence of bytes. It is called input stream if the flow of bytes is from the device. to main memory, whereas output stream if the flow of bytes is from the main memory to the device. To perform the basic input and output operations, the header file used is iOS stream. For the standard output, count is used together with the insertion operator. This is the example of the basic input and output statements. C++ operators. Operators are used to perform mathematical or logical operations. Here's the list of some important operators in C++. If and if-else statements. The if statement is a single selection statement used in C++ to execute a block of statements only when the condition is true. The syntax is if condition statement, or if a block contains several statements, then the syntax is if open parenthesis condition and then close parenthesis. Where if is the keyword used for selection control statement. Take note that the keyword uses lowercase letters. Condition is the expression that is being evaluated which makes use of relational operators. Block of statements is the group of statements that is executed when the condition is true. If the condition is false, the block of statements is ignored. The if-else statement, on the other hand, if-else statement is used when there are two conditions. Nested if and if-else statements. These are statements that makes use of if or else if statement inside another if or else statements. Switch statement. The switch statement is another selection control statement used in C++. It is used to select one of the block of statements to be executed based from the value of the expression when tested in each case. The syntax is switch open parenthesis expression and close parentheses. Then open bracket case constant expression, block of statements, and then break. And another one in the below. Default block of statement and then close the brackets. Switch is the keyword for the switch statement. The expression is the one that is evaluated and compared with the values of each case. Case is the keyword for the case statement. Constant expression must be constant or literal that has the same data type with the variable in the switch statement. Break is the keyword which terminates the switch statement and jumps to the statement immediately following the switch. Default is the keyword that is optional, which is used when there is no match from the given cases. The code after the default will then be executed. There is no need to place a break in the default case. When the code fragment above is evaluated, let us assume that the value of x is b. The first case will be tested. Since the value of the case which is a does not match the value of the variable x, it goes to the second case. Since the second case matches the value of the variable which is b, then very good. Will be displayed and jumps to the statement immediately following the switch because of the break statement. The statement following the switch is the count statement. Hence, done will be displayed. For statement. Reiteration control statements, otherwise called loop, are statements that allow repeated execution of block of codes until a particular condition is satisfied. For instance, when you display a word 100 times instead of using the print statement 100 times, you may lose you which uses few lines of code. There are three types of loop statements in C++, namely for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Specifically, for loop is used when you know exactly the number of times you want to loop through a block of code. Initialization is where you declare the initial value of your variable. Condition is where you set the condition which, when satisfied, the loop is executed, otherwise the for loop is terminated. Increment or decrement is where you set updates on the value of your variable, either it increments or decrements. The flow of execution for loop is shown below. It starts with the initialization of variable which is executed only once. It then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the for loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of codes. After every execution of blocks of codes, the increment or decrement part of for loop is executed, which updates the loop counter. After which, it goes back to the condition part where it is re-evaluated. Take a look at the sample code fragment below. The initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of c, where c becomes 1. Since 1 is still less than 3, it goes for the statement within the for loop which prints 1. It then increments again the value of c, where c now becomes 2. Since 2 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 2. It then increments again the value of c, where c becomes 3. The condition is re-evaluated, and since 3 is not less than 3, the for loop is terminated. While statement. The while loop is another type of loop statement in C++. It is used only when the number of times you want to loop are not exactly known. The while loop syntax is where while is the keyword for the while loop statement. Condition is where you set the condition which, when satisfied, the loop is executed. Otherwise, the while loop is terminated. Block of statements is the body of the loop that is executed when the condition is met. The flow of execution of while loop is shown. It starts with the initialization of variable, which is executed only once, which is similar to the for loop. It then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the while loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of statements. The increment or decrement part is which part of the block of statements, when executed, updates the loop counter. After which, it goes back to the condition part where it is re-evaluated. Take a look at the sample code below. The initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, it goes to the statement within the while loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of c, which c becomes 1. It goes back to the condition where C is reevaluated. Since 1 is still less than 3, it goes again to the statement within the while loop which prints 1. It then increments again the value of C, where C now becomes 2. From the condition, since 2 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the while loop which prints 2. It then increments again the value of C, where C becomes 3. The condition is reevaluated since 3 is not less than 3. The while loop is terminated. Now let's talk about the do-while statement. The do-while loop is another type of loop statement in C++. It is also used to iterate a block of statements several times. Specifically, do-while loop is used if the number of iterations is not fixed. The block of statements is executed at least once since the condition is checked after the block of statements. The do-while loop syntax is where do-while, do and while are the keywords used in the loop. Condition is where you set a condition which when satisfied the loop is executed. Otherwise, the loop is terminated. Block of statements is the body of the loop that is executed once and is executed again as long as the condition is met. The flow of execution of do-while loop is shown below. In the right side. It starts with the initialization of variable which is executed only once, which is similar to the for loop, after which it executes the block of statements and then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the do-while loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of statements again. The increment or decrement is part of the block of statements which, when executed, updates the loop counter. After which, it goes back to the condition part where it is reevaluated. Take a look at the sample code fragment below. The initial value of variable C is 0. It goes immediately to the block of statements within the loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of C where C becomes 1 again, and it goes to the condition where C is evaluated. Since 1 is less than 3, it goes again to the block of statements within the while loop which prints 1 and increments again the value of C, and then the C now becomes 2. The condition is then evaluated, and since 2 is still less than 3, it goes again to the block of statements within the while loop which prints 2 and increments the value of C where C now becomes 3. The condition is evaluated since 3 is not less than 3 and while loop is terminated. C++ library functions. A function is a block of statements that perform specific tasks which can be only executed when it is called. It is also known as the method or subroutine or a procedure. C++ provides several predefined functions which are part of the standard library functions of C++. Below are some of the predefined functions of C++. Function po, syntax po base and exponent returns base raised to the power of the exponent. Obs open parenthesis number in close parenthesis returns the absolute value of the argument number. Function round returns the integral value that is nearest to the argument with halfway cases rounded away from 0. Square root function square root returns the square root of a single non-negative argument number. Function sign returns the sign of an angle given in radians. Header file C-string. Function string length returns length of given string. Function string cut appends a copy of the character string pointed to by source to the end of string pointed to by destination. Function string copy copies the character string pointed to by source to the memory location pointed to by destination. Header file CC type. Function tuper returns the uppercase version of the character if it exists. It works with putchar function to write a character to the standard output. Function follower returns the lowercase version of the character if it exists. Works with putchar function to write a character to the standard output. Function isUpper checks the isUpper checks if character is in uppercase. Function isLower checks the character is in lowercase. Function isAlpha characters check if the given character is an alphabet or not. Function isDigit checks if the given character is a digit or not. User-defined functions. C++ also allows you to create your own functions to perform specific actions besides the predefined functions available in the standard library. This kind of function is called user-defined function. User-defined functions are important when you want to reuse block of statements anytime within the program. The syntax is where return type is the type of data that the value the function returns. When you want your function not to return a value, then use the keyword void as the return type. Function name is the name given to the function. Parameter list. One or more parameters where values are passed. A parameter consists of a type followed by an identifier. If there are more than one parameter, then each parameter is separated from the next by a comma. Parameters are, however, optional, which means a function may contain no parameters. Block of statements are a group of statements that defines what the function performs. Thank you.